The invitation to my father's annual charity gala sat on my desk, its gold embossing catching the late afternoon sun. The Madison Foundation's Winter Ball, the crown jewel of Boston's social season, where my stepmother Vivian paraded her carefully curated image of philanthropic generosity. If only they knew who really funded their charitable empire. Miss Carter. My assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. The final transfer is complete. $2 million, anonymously donated to the Madison Foundation's annual fund. I smiled, touching the invitation's heavy cardstock. Perfect timing, Hannah. And the reveal is set for midnight. Yes, ma'am. Right after your stepmother's big speech about family legacy and generosity. 7 years of anonymous donations. 7 years of watching Vivian and my father take credit for my money, using it to buy their way into Boston's elite social circles. But tonight everything would change. The sun was setting as my car pulled up to the Madison estate, 20 acres of manicured perfection that my father had purchased with his new wife's supposedly vast fortune. In reality, every mortgage payment for the past 5 years had come from one of my investment accounts, carefully channeled through offshore companies to maintain the illusion of Vivian's wealth. Miss Eleanor. The security guard stepped forward as I approached the main entrance. I'm sorry, but Mrs. Madison left strict instructions. All staff must use the service entrance around back. I looked down at my Alexander McQueen gown worth more than the guard's yearly salary, and bit back a laugh. I'm not staff. I'm Richard Madison's daughter. Oh. His face flushed. I'm so sorry, but Mrs. Madison specifically mentioned you. Said you'd be helping with the catering. Of course she did. Vivian never missed an opportunity to remind everyone that her stepdaughter was just a small business owner who couldn't possibly understand their prestigious social circle. If she only knew that my small business, Carter Investment Group, now managed over $4 billion in assets. Fine, I said quietly. The service entrance it is. The kitchen was bustling with actual catering staff when I entered. Chef Andre, who'd known me since childhood, shot me a sympathetic look. Again, Miss Eleanor? You know Vivian. I adjusted my dress. Heaven forbid I embarrass them by coming through the front door. It's ridiculous, he muttered, sliding me a glass of champagne. If they knew who really paid for all this. They will, I smiled. Very soon. The ballroom was a symphony of crystal and silk, Boston's wealthiest citizens mingling beneath chandeliers that I'd secretly purchased last year. Vivian held court near the entrance, resplendent in designer clothes bought with my money. Eleanor. Her voice carried that familiar note of condescension. There you are. The catering staff needs help with the hors d'oeuvres. I'm not actually working tonight, Vivian. I sipped my champagne. I'm here as a guest. She laughed, the sound sharp and false. Don't be ridiculous. You can't afford a ticket to this gala. These tables cost $25,000 each. I thought about the $1 million donation I'd made last month to secure the foundation's new building. I managed. My father approached, his face showing the familiar discomfort he always had around me. Ever since he'd married Vivian 6 years ago, he'd allowed her to slowly push me out of his life, too weak or too besotted to stand up for his only child. Eleanor, he nodded stiffly. I didn't expect you to attend. Wouldn't miss it, I said. Especially not tonight. Vivian's eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? Just that I'm interested in the foundation's big announcement. The anonymous donor everyone's been speculating about. Yes, well, she preened, some of us have very wealthy, very generous friends in high places. Not that you'd understand with your little investment hobby. My hobby had tripled my inheritance from my late mother, turning me into one of the youngest billionaires in Boston. But Vivian and my father still thought I ran some small financial planning service out of a strip mall office. Speaking of which, my father shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps you should help in the kitchen. Just until dinner starts. We wouldn't want anyone getting the wrong impression. About what? I asked softly. That your daughter might actually belong here. Don't be difficult, Vivian snapped. You know how these events work. Image is everything. We can't have people thinking that the help might mingle with your precious social circle. She grabbed my arm, perfectly manicured nails digging into my skin. Listen here. Your father and I have worked very hard to build this foundation's reputation. We won't have you embarrassing us by pretending to be something you're not. I gently removed her hand. You're right, Vivian. I've been pretending to be something I'm not. But that ends tonight. Is that a threat? She laughed. What could you possibly do? Just wait for the midnight announcement. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Vivian, that Cartier bracelet you're wearing? The clasp is loose. Wouldn't want to lose another one. Her face paled slightly. Last month she'd lost an expensive bracelet at a charity lunch. In reality, I'd bought it back from the pawn shop where she'd sold it to cover her mounting credit card debt. You know nothing about my jewelry, she hissed. I know more than you think. I smiled. About everything. The next few hours passed in a blur of forced smiles and careful avoidance. I watched from the corners as Vivian and my father worked the room, promising their wealthy friends that tonight's revelation would change the foundation forever. They had no idea how right they were. At 11:45, Vivian clinked her glass for attention. Friends, supporters, fellow philanthropists. In 15 minutes, we'll be revealing the identity of our mysterious benefactor. The generous soul who has helped the Madison Foundation reach new heights of charitable giving. My father beamed proudly. Someone who truly understands the meaning of legacy and social responsibility. I checked my phone, a message from Hannah. Everything's ready. The presentation is set. 7 years of watching them take credit for my generosity. 7 years of being treated like an embarrassment while they lived off my money. 7 years of using the service entrance at parties I'd secretly funded. But in 15 minutes, everyone would know exactly who had been behind the Madison Foundation's miraculous rise to social prominence. I caught Chef Andre's eye across the room. He nodded slightly, already knowing what was coming. After all, he'd been the one to tell me about Vivian selling the family silver last year to cover the foundation's debts, silver I'd quietly replaced with pieces from my own collection. The clock ticked closer to midnight as Vivian continued her speech about generosity and family values. If only she knew that her perfect world of social status and charitable acclaim was about to crumble. I touched the USB drive in my clutch, the one containing proof of every donation, every transfer, every secret payment I'd made to keep their fantasy world afloat. Time to show them what real generosity looks like. The ballroom sparkled as midnight approached. Vivian stood at the podium, basking in the attention of Boston's elite while my father hovered nearby, practically glowing with false pride. And now, Vivian's voice carried across the hushed room, the moment you've all been waiting for. The revelation of our guardian angel, the person who has transformed the Madison Foundation with their incredible generosity. I moved quietly toward the audiovisual booth, where Hannah waited with our presentation ready. Over the past 7 years, Vivian continued, this anonymous donor has contributed over $15 million to our causes. They've funded our new children's hospital wing, our literacy programs, our scholarship funds. All projects I'd chosen, funded, and implemented through shell companies while they took the credit. Tonight, my father joined her at the podium. We finally honor this mysterious benefactor. Someone who truly understands the importance of social responsibility and family legacy. I caught Hannah's eye and nodded. The lights dimmed slightly as the presentation screen lowered behind them. Ladies and gentlemen, Vivian raised her champagne glass. Please welcome the architect of our foundation's success, Mr. Jonathan Pierce. A distinguished-looking man in his 60s stood up from one of the front tables, smiling modestly. Vivian had been cultivating him for months, convinced he was their anonymous donor. Actually, I said, my voice carrying clearly through the sudden silence, Mr. Pierce hasn't donated a single dollar to the Madison Foundation. Vivian's perfect smile froze as I walked toward the podium. Eleanor, what are you doing? Get back to the kitchen immediately. No, Vivian. I think it's time everyone learned where the money really comes from. I nodded to Hannah, who started the presentation. The screen filled with transfer records, bank statements, and donation receipts, all bearing the name of Carter Investment Group or one of its subsidiaries. What is this? My father stammered. Evidence, I said calmly, of every donation I've made over the past 7 years. While you were sending me through the service entrance, I was paying for these parties. While you were mocking my little investment hobby, I was funding your entire foundation. The room erupted in whispers. Vivian's face had gone chalk white. That's impossible, she hissed. You run a small financial planning business. Actually, I clicked to the next slide showing Carter Investment Group's current holdings. I run one of the largest private investment firms in New England. 4 billion in assets under management. 28 corporate subsidiaries. And yes, complete ownership of the Madison Foundation's endowment. My father gripped the podium for support. But our wealth, Vivian's family money, doesn't exist, I finished quietly. I know about the pawned jewelry, Vivian. The mortgaged properties. The maxed-out credit cards. I've been covering your debts for years, all so you could play philanthropist with my money. Why? He whispered. Why would you do this? Because 7 years ago when I tried to contribute to the foundation openly, you shut me out. Said I couldn't possibly understand your world of high society charity. So I decided to show you exactly what I understood. The screen showed photo after photo. The hospital wing I'd funded, the schools I'd supported, the families we'd helped. All causes I'd chosen and financed while they claimed the credit. The children's hospital wing? I continued. My idea, my money. The literacy program? I designed it myself. The scholarship fund? Named after you but funded entirely by me. Vivian's carefully constructed mask cracked completely. You're lying. You have to be. You're nothing but a small-time investment advisor. Would a small-time advisor be able to buy your mortgage when you defaulted last year? I pulled out my phone showing her the property deed. Or replace the family silver you sold. Or cover the foundation's operating costs when your wealthy friends stopped donating. The whispers had grown louder. Boston's elite watching their social queen being dethroned by the stepdaughter she'd banished to the kitchen. Eleanor, my father stepped forward, his voice pleading. We can discuss this privately. Like you discussed making me use the service entrance? Or treating me like hired help at events I paid for. I turned to address the stunned crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Eleanor Carter, CEO of Carter Investment Group and the actual donor behind every major Madison Foundation initiative for the past 7 years. The silence was deafening. Then slowly Mr. Pierce started to applaud. Others joined in, their faces showing a mix of admiration and schadenfreude as they watched Vivian's social empire crumble. As of tonight, I continued, the foundation will operate under new management. Our mission of helping others will continue, but with transparency and genuine purpose, not as a tool for social climbing. You can't do this, Vivian's voice shook. The foundation is our legacy. No, Vivian. It's my legacy. Bought and paid for with my money, while you played pretend with other people's wealth. I smiled softly. Though I'm sure the service entrance is still available if you'd like to stay involved. Chef Andre appeared at my elbow with a glass of champagne, grinning broadly. I raced it to the crowd. To genuine philanthropy. And to finally giving credit where it's due. The next hour passed in a blur of congratulations and business cards. Boston's elite, ever adaptable, quickly shifted their allegiance to the real power in the room. Vivian and my father had disappeared, probably to contemplate their new social reality. Later that night, as the last guests departed, I stood in the ballroom that had seen my greatest humiliations and my ultimate triumph. Miss Carter. Hannah appeared with a stack of papers. The foundation's board has approved the transfer of control. They're quite impressed with your long-term commitment to the causes. And the mortgage? I asked. Still in your name. Your father and Vivian have 30 days to either buy it back or move out. I thought about 7 years of criticism, mockery, and dismissal. 7 years of watching them take credit for my generosity while treating me like an embarrassment. Give them 60 days. I said finally, and set up a small fund for their living expenses. Hannah looked surprised. After everything they did? They taught me an important lesson about genuine charity, I smiled. Sometimes helping others means helping even those who don't deserve it. I walked toward the main entrance. No more service doors for me, thinking about legacy and generosity. Tomorrow I would start reshaping the foundation into something truly meaningful. But tonight I had one last stop to make. The kitchen was quiet as I entered. Chef Andre was finishing the cleanup, his staff long gone. Congratulations, Miss Eleanor. He grinned. Quite a show tonight. I picked up a tray of leftover hors d'oeuvres, the ones Vivian had insisted I should be serving. Thank you, Andre. For everything. for keeping my secret all these years. It was my pleasure. Though I doubt Mrs. Madison will be sending you to help in the kitchen anymore. No, I laughed. I suspect not. Though maybe it's time we hired her. I hear she might be looking for work soon. As I drove home, my phone buzzed with a message from my father. Can we talk? About the foundation. About everything. I thought about second chances and real charity. About genuine philanthropy versus social status. About what it means to help others even when they've hurt you. Tomorrow, I texted back. Through the front door this time. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving people wrong. It's showing them a better way to be right. Even if it takes 7 years and millions of dollars to teach them that lesson. After all, that's what true philanthropy is about.